Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you want to know why AIG went broke, threatening to bring down the whole U.S. economy? It's actually easy to find out. All you have to do is wade through 500-plus pages in the Form 10-K that AIG filed 2 weeks ago. It's all in there, and I read it. Now, derivatives certainly contributed to the problem. That's why the stress test on page 178 says that AIG owes $500 billion, yes, $500 billion, if long-term interest rates go up by just 1%, as opposed to only $5 billion, according to page 183, if San Francisco is destroyed in an earthquake. So now we know why the Federal Reserve has been buying long-term bonds just as fast as the Chinese sell them, to keep its ward, AIG, from being liable for $500 billion, because $500 billion is a lot of money, even to the Federal Reserve. And to whom would AIG owe that money? The answer is on page 176. AIG's largest credit exposure, which is 160% of its shareholder equity, is to money center banks and global bank groups. In other words, Wall Street. And almost half of that amount is owed to only 5 banks. But the real AIG losses have come not from derivatives, but rather from AIG's basic business model. In a news release last Monday, AIG said that it had to make payouts of $43.7 billion because of securities lending counterparties. That's the phrase, securities lending counterparties. The news release doesn't explain what that is, but AIG's 10-K does. The standard insurance business model is as follows. You make money from minimizing your claim payments, and you make more money from your investments. Warren Buffett has explained this countless times in Berkshire Hathaway's 10-Ks. It's a stable, steady business. And indeed, AIG's insurance and subsidiaries took in premiums, AIG invested them, and AIG paid out on claims. But that's when things went horribly wrong. According to AIG's 10-K, AIG's parent company sucked the investment assets out of its insurance subsidiaries and lent them to Wall Street and foreign banks in return for cash. AIG then took this borrowed cash and invested it, are you ready for this? In mortgage-backed securities. It's not in AIG's 10-K, but the counterparties, that is, its friends on Wall Street, undoubtedly took the stocks and bonds borrowed from AIG and sold them short. That's why institutions borrow securities, to sell them, buy them back later at a lower price, return them, and claim the profit. So as the markets dropped, AIG's counterparties laughed all the way to the bank, except they are banks. And what about AIG? According to the first few pages of AIG's 10-K, when the counterparties returned the securities to AIG, AIG had trouble coming up with the cash because, first of all, the mortgage-backed securities market had blown up, and secondly, the securities that AIG had lent out were actually worth far less at that point. Hence the federal bailout at $150 billion and counting. And this money, by the way, this money that the federal government is giving to AIG implausibly lists that money as shareholder equity, not loans, on its own financial statements. Now, why would AIG do something as convoluted and nutty as this? To goose its profits a few points by counting both the return on lent securities and the return on the mortgage-backed securities both as its profit. In other words, the motive was greed. Obviously, AIG shouldn't have done this, and no insurance company ever should be able to do it in the future. This is the kind of financial innovation that brings into focus why we need to regulate in order for this country to survive. The choice is not between regulation and freedom. The choice is between regulation and chaos. I yield the rest of my time.